Welcome to Behavioral Health Today, a podcast brought to you by the Triad Network. This podcast is designed to share trending topics occurring within the world and our communities and bring them a behavioral and mental health perspective.
Welcome to Behavioral Health Today. I'm your host, Sharlee Dixon. My guest today is Dr. Nicole Dolan. Nicole is a writer, former clinician, and intuitive coach whose work blends depth psychology, spirituality, and lived experience as a mother. Her forthcoming book, The Art of Chaos, explores how her world fell apart and how she discovered meaning and resilience in the mess of trauma, motherhood, and raising a neurodivergent child. Drawing from her background as a clinical director and her transition into holistic family coaching, Nicole helps parents and families uncover patterns, heal generational wounds, and find strength through conscious parenting. Passionate about creating space for authentic stories, she guides others on the path toward healing, wholeness, and deeper connection. In this episode, we'll dive into Nicole's journey through motherhood, trauma, and raising a neurodivergent child, exploring how her book, The Art of Chaos, weaves psychology, spirituality, and ancestral healing into a powerful reminder that meaning and resilience can be found even in life's messiest moments. We're so excited to have Nicole with us today. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. So we'll just jump right in. Talk to me about what inspired you to write The Art of Chaos.
Yeah, so The Art of Chaos started in a way where it was a book that very much talked about the meaning of life, trauma as catalysts for growth and transformation, and really a way to look through a lens of meaning. So many people get so stuck in aspects of their life when, of course, really difficult things happen, which is part of this journey. And I wrote it from this place of really wanting to help people see through those experiences and also help move them through those experiences by sharing my story. Now, that said, I've been writing this book for 10 years. And so along that path, I became a mother and everything changed.
Yeah.
So it went from not just being a book about meaning, but I actually found over time, and what it turned into with the help of my team too, inspiring me, was it actually wound up being a book also about nervous system imprints and how our earlier imprints shape our roles and lives in general, but specifically as mothers. And as we'll get into, I'm a mother of neurodivergent children. And so what also came of this book was talking about nervous system imprints, trauma histories, experiences that have landed in the body and in the energetic field, if you will, and have shaped our lives going forward, and how our children are the ones that come in and unlock that in us. So I was asking the question, what's coming up in me when my child is having this issue or this meltdown, or from a sensory perspective, but also psychologically speaking too.
Right. Well, can't wait to dig into all of that. I do have a quick question, though, about the book's subtitle, A Memoir on Motherhood, Trauma, and Transformation. You touched a bit on that just now, but you discuss it as a story of how your world fell apart and how you found meaning in the mess. Can you share what that mess looks like for you and how it adapted and changed over the 10 years of you writing the book?
Yeah, sure. So like I was sharing in the beginning, I felt like the meaning in the mess it wasn't so messy, let's say. I wrote the book, or I began writing the book from the perspective of, I'm a depth psychologist. I know how to help people through these things. And then we land on the other side of the hero's journey and all is well, right?
Yeah.
And then I was guided into, let's talk a little bit more about what's happening right now as mother and the chaos of what I was experiencing. And to share a little bit about what that mess looked like for me personally, it was raising a neurodivergent child, a child on the autism spectrum who was having severe mental and behavioral health challenges, high sensitivity to all sensory, right? She can't eat the food that we eat, and she can't wear the clothes that we wear, and she can't sit in the circle at the mama and me group that everybody else can sit in. And
Yeah.
so all of the challenges that were coming along with that experience, as well as, like I was sharing, the psychological challenges that were coming up around like my own challenges with sensory, right? So like when my kid would get overstimulated or she'd be having a huge meltdown or something, it was really, really challenging for me. It actually was the beginning of leading me on a nervous system healing journey myself. So that was in itself very intense. But then I had my mother living next door. I was in a multi-generational home. So I had all of my own stuff coming up that came up from my past with my mom, as she's now the one stepping in to help out with my daughter. My father was diagnosed with cancer and he lived next door, and I was caring and supporting him as well. My marriage was falling apart. I mean, I could keep going, but I was just in the like absolute just chaos. And so when I say meaning in the mess, what I learned is I may have come from a place before of a more linear perspective of healing, in the sense of the hero that goes on the call and then goes and looks for the gold out here so that he can bring it home to the tribe. And instead, and I don't know if you're familiar with these terms, hero's journey and heroine's journey, but I actually now use the term heroine's journey, because the heroine actually, instead of going out and slaying the dragons, she actually is the one, and this is from a mythological perspective, but she is the one who goes within to find the gold. So it's the meaning in the mess. It's not finding the sacred or the experiences of healing out here. It's coming home in here. It's coming into the nervous system. It's being able to find peace within when your life is falling apart.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And just like you mentioned, we all have our own version of trauma in our histories. Yours is even more unique because you're trying to unpack your dealing with being a parent in the moment, having the source maybe even of your trauma living in the home with you or right next door with you, which I commend you on being trying to parent while being parented and being a caregiver on top of all of that. That is, I didn't live it. And just in those few moments, my nervous system is like, oh man, how did she make it through that? I'm clenching my desk in front of me. Like that is a lot. So can you talk to us about how just those pieces of things coming up from your past, how you're able to work through them, manage them as you continue to be a parent today, work through that as well?
Yeah, it's a big question. So
Mhm.
I actually feel my own body being like, okay, yeah,
Yeah, like
take a
that's
breath.
it's heavy. It is.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I will say it was many years of being in the forest, right? And so when we are in the forest, we can't see the trees. We don't know what integration possibly looks like. We don't know that we're even going to make it out alive. And what was kind of wild for me as a depth psychologist, somebody who specializes in the process of transformation, has seen it 100 times, has transformed into multiple versions of myself, and teaches therapists around the world how to do this. So it was a really wild experience for me to get to that level of chaos and destruction and stress and be like, I actually can't see my way out. So I had the trust, thankfully, that I had built in myself, that like there was meaning in this mess, but I had no idea what that meaning was. And I wanted in the beginning the meaning to be, I'm a very spiritual person. And so I wanted in the beginning the meaning to be something almost esoteric, honestly. I was like, well, maybe she's working through some past life thing, and that's why she's been crying and screaming since she came into this world, you know? Or maybe I'm carrying something in my energy field that I could go and shift to help support her. I mean, I was a very holistic Eastern medicine practitioner in so many ways. And while I still value that, and I always say on these, whenever I talk to anybody about this, I say, okay, don't hear one or the other in me. It's not that it was one or the other, but I wanted the answer to be in the sacred. I really did. I had done so much inner work and I was so attuned to that. And I didn't have an answer as to like, why am I child would show up in this world struggling so much without anything that you could see, right? Like doctors didn't know what was going on. They're like, oh, she's colic, try a different hold. Like she'll be fine. Rock her a little bit more or something, right? So, and then you also feel like you're failing as a
absolutely.
parent.
Yeah.
Like, top of the line, like that's the thing that comes in. You're like, oh my gosh, I can't soothe my own kid. So a very long journey of a lot of chaos and distress before I could even begin to answer that question.
Right.
And so I went on this very deep journey of seeking and trying to heal it within myself. I've been doing this since she was born in ways. So there were things that my infant wasn't going to be able to process for me. So I was really seeking the answer in myself.
Yeah.
And then when it didn't really come, I mean, I had some relief. I had some things that changed from the work that I was doing, certainly. I actually started leaning into the science. I started saying, okay, maybe I'm not going to find this in my holistic ways. And I started really leaning into the science. And then I started understanding like these aren't just tantrums, these are sensory meltdowns. This is much different than a neurotypical situation. And I started studying that. And the interesting thing is I already had a PhD in psychology. I learned that everything that we had been taught was for the neurotypical brain.
Absolutely.
And so now I have to go on this brand new journey and learn all of these new things. And so anyways, I got into the world of autism, ADHD. I got into understanding things clinically and learning to apply them in that way. And then once things calmed a little bit, I mean, it's not perfect. I write to you from the mess. I'm still a mom in it.
Yeah.
But once things started to like make more sense and I started to understand, we did a lot of work. We did neural feedback and neurosensory integration and nervous system work and all kinds of things. But once I started to really get the science of her brain and her system and also mine, then this full circle journey started happening and the sacred did come alive again. And I did start seeing things in my child that I couldn't see before, her gifts and the way that she is in the world.
Yeah.
And so it's a really long-winded answer to say, but it was a long inner journey of discovering both the sacred and the science, and then also really working on nervous system regulation that brought me into being able to be present in this experience and hold it differently with regulation in my body and also more peace in my heart and mind and coming back into my scaffolding of like, okay, trust the process.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. And you really alluded to it, and you and I talked about this before we came on the show, but parenting is absolutely hands down one of the hardest things that I've personally ever done.
Yeah.
And my children are both neurotypical, don't have any form of diagnosis other than some learning difficulties. But other than that, they are the normal in air quotes. So I know that parenting a child with autism can even bring up even more layers as a parent. Shame, grief, guilt, anger. You aren't, like you mentioned, you're not doing it right. You're failing at this. And as the society tells us that we should not talk about those things, that's not being a good parent. That's not being a good mom. Like you're not supposed to feel those ways about yourself, about your children, about what this journey looks like. How do you encourage parents to honor those emotions instead of pushing them away? Because it is much easier to be like, nope, everything's perfect. It's fine, because that's what social media does. And that's what the people on TikTok and all of that, that's what they show, like how great it is. But it's not always that way.
Yeah, absolutely. And how I encourage it in my own personal life, I remember, especially as new mother, I really tried sharing my truth as loud as I could. I tried sharing stories. I tried telling the truth and being as honest as I could be, even though I did experience a lot of shame. Because I had this sense, even then, that we were all so isolated in this conditioning, to your point, like we were all taught that we would only post these beautiful, wonderful pictures and only act in this way and never complain about the journey, And so it's kind of a very gaslighting experience in many ways. And how I would encourage people now is, I mean, first off, tell your truth, speak the truth. If more of us would just tell the truth, we wouldn't all feel so alone in this. But certainly also having the support, working through The shame, because once again, I'm looking through the lens of child as teacher.
Mm.
So what are they bringing up in us when we do feel that shame?
Yeah.
You know, when we do have that sense of, I don't feel good enough, something that I noticed in my own journey as mother, which was really interesting. It makes sense because we do not heal linearly. We heal more in a spiral, in the sense that, like, whatever we've worked on here, okay, we'll be good for a while, and then it will kind of circle around and another layer will visit us at some other time.
Mm-hmm.
And something that I realized as a mother was I had done so much inner work. I mean, I felt so ready. I was like, I've got this in the bag, you know?
Yes, yeah.
and, and really, like, I had to be challenged in these ways, because I probably would have still been under some, I don't know, plot of conditioning. I probably would have been, oh yeah, this
Mm-hmm.
is great. I've got this down. You know, I have 3 children. And if, you know, the last one would have come first, I would have thought I was a really good mom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's, I even make the joke, I'll tell you this. I make the joke sometimes. I'm like, yeah, no, if you were to see my child sometimes by the way, some of the things that, like, how these symptoms manifest,
Mm-hmm.
you would just think I'm a bad mom. Like, it doesn't
Yeah.
look like she's ill or anything. She's very smart. She just is here to
Mhm.
break all the systems and not really pay attention to all the conditioning that you do.
Yeah.
So it's very intense. And what I learned, one thing that I learned is, even though I had done this work, I revisited it like all over again as a mom. Like, I felt like I was in middle school again, and I was revisiting the core wounds of, I'm not good enough.
Mm.
Where do I belong? How do I fit here? Oh my gosh, everyone's looking at me at this restaurant as I'm trying to get, like, the car seat and the stroller and get the
Yeah.
wheels to go in between the chairs. And so it was such an interesting experience to be brought back to the beginning. And something I say in my book is, like, we're asked to begin again. I was asked to begin again.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
So that comes up around your question. How do you speak about those of us who are carrying this conditioning and this shame and this suffering of,
Mhm.
this is supposed to be perfect, because it's
Yeah.
not.
It's not. It's not. And I completely agree with you. I think there's power in just being honest with the other mothers, or with people who aren't mothers or fathers or whoever just yet. Like, maybe you should understand it's not as easy as it may seem. And I actually talk to a lot of parents. My children play soccer and some other sports, and you sit there and you don't have anything else to do. You just talk to other parents. And a lot of times it dawned on me, having a conversation with another mom. I don't know what I forgot, something. I don't know. I didn't sign the permission form. And so my kid was late and he didn't have the money for something. I don't remember what it was, but I felt really bad about it. And I felt so much shame that my kid was like the only kid that had not turned in his form. And as I said it out loud, but to myself, like, man, girl, you are messing this up. How did you not turn this paper in? The mom beside me was like, girl, it's fine. I didn't turn mine in until just now too. So in that moment, I had the light bulb, like, oh, really? She was like, it's fine, girl. I have 3 other kids that are older than him. It'll be okay. You're going to be fine. Like, this might suck, but you're going to make it. And just in that moment, and my oldest at that time was 4. So just in that moment, it changed how I saw the rest of what my journey may look like. Like, it's okay to not be perfect at this, because you're not perfect anyway. Like, none of us are going to be. And so I completely agree with
Yeah.
you in just the honesty in it, and accepting that your emotions are going to happen with it. And so trying to hold on to it and not share them, I think, is kind of where we get stuck in that conditioning and that isolation as well. Completely agree with
Yeah.
you.
And that acceptance, and then also that support,
Absolutely.
right? Because if we're all walking around like zombies, believing
Mhm.
and hiding what's happening underneath, then the other problem of that is that, like, not only are we all individually suffering, but we can't support each other.
Right.
So I love that you had that experience.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
it,
And
and I
I just hugged the lady. I didn't even know her name. I was like, thank you, ma'am. Like,
yeah.
it's funny looking back now, but in that moment, like, I was falling apart.
Yeah.
And just hearing from another mom say, girl, it's okay. You're going to be all right. Really, it changed who I became or am becoming as a parent.
Yeah.
It's beautiful to be a part of, for sure.
Absolutely. Those
Yeah.
moments mean so much.
They really do. They really do. And so you also mentioned that most of your early professional training was just based on neurotypical brains. And so then you had to re-educate yourself when your daughter was born around neurodivergence and just the differences in how brain functioning happens and what they may look like. How did that change your perspective as a clinician and then now as a coach with parents dealing with the same thing?
Yeah. So it was really a full circle journey, much in the way that I described my initiation into parenting, because yeah, I had gone from this place of working with the individual client mostly. I mean, I worked with couples and families, but I did a lot
Mhm.
of work with individuals, adults mostly. And the funny thing, one of the biggest things that changed in my nonprofit is we just attracted hundreds of children once I became a
Yeah.
parent. And before that, like none. We just didn't attract them. So that was
Yeah.
that was interesting. So that's something that changed in our practice as a whole. But in me, it was a journey of initiation, and it was a journey of what I call building capacity and also coming into wholeness,
Mm.
because I did live on one side of the split, right? Just like, and I won't get into any kind of like politics or the world today, but I will just say very briefly that like we all live in the split.
Mhm.
And so I had my own inner journey with the split of like, how do I integrate? And I had to go from depth psychology, which is very, very focused on what does the soul want? So when we see someone with depression or anxiety, we're not quick to alleviate it. I mean, we want to make you feel better, but we also want to hear what is the wisdom that's speaking through your body? What is the story that's coming through your soul? What in your life is unlived and wants to be alive?
Mm.
So we hold this deep, deep philosophy in a very sacred, beautiful way that every single person has an incredibly beautiful story, and that our intention as, space holders and therapists is to help them uncover that story so that they can reclaim themselves. And once I became a parent, first, as I've shared, there was just so much chaos and confusion that I did not have the integration to give you this answer, but I can give it to you now. It was like, wow, like I had to not only learn about neurodivergence and how that's different, but also going from the I to the we, like
Mm.
going from working with individuals to understanding systems and
Mhm.
complexity, and
Mhm.
how, this isn't really about just one transformation of some trauma that we've gone to heal so that we can find out some story. It became like, well, every single person in the family's story is impacting everybody else's,
Mhm.
and how does this all come together? So without being confusing, my work became very complex. It became very multi-layered. It became very expansive, and how it changed in my work personally is I wound up teaching more. I have a practice of about 30 therapists right now that I teach. So I wound up bringing neurodivergence into Sacred Path in a big way. Like it was like, I
Yeah.
want all these clinicians to be trained in this. I want them to understand what this looks like and how to
Mhm.
be supportive.
Mhm.
And then for me, I shifted from, and this is where the integration comes, because for a while I was like, how do I be in this like soul level perspective? And then how do I study like autism and neurofeedback and biofeedback and like, how you can like you can twist a body in a certain way and then integrate reflexes, which were not integrated at this age. And I mean, I was just like, it was very overwhelming. So
Yes.
I will just continuously paint the art of chaos for you here. But when it came into when it came into integration, which it does happen, I promise, for others in their stuff, it was it actually brought me into, from a coaching perspective, somebody who can hold this deep soul wisdom of sacred contracts. What is it that we came here to do? What is our purpose in life? Let me tell you about your life path number. Let me tell you about your name and who you are, and
Mm.
the nervous system imprints that I see, that yes, that happened in your childhood, but it also shaped your resiliency and where you're going forward. So I have this background, this experience, this understanding, this ability to see, but then I can also apply it to the family now. I can see
Mm.
what is the child coming in to mirror and teach, and what is the child bringing in that is gift, and also offer multiple layers of support. Like, hey, I think occupational therapy would be really supportive for your kids. So even though your kid is like this incredible, magical, intuitive being, we also have to get their body to be able to expand to a place where they can actually integrate the level of intelligence and soul that these kids are bringing in.
We'll be right back after a word from our sponsor.
Whether you're a longtime or first-time listener to Behavioral Health Today, you're probably familiar with Triad, the company that brings you this podcast. But you may not know that Triad also hosts a community for current and aspiring behavioral and mental health professionals, featuring trending content and education and career resources, all for free. If you are a behavioral or mental health professional, or you're studying to become one, join more than 80,000 people on Triad by claiming your free professional account today. Visit us at hellotriad.com/BHT. That's hellotriad.com/BHT and join the Triad community today.
Nice,
Yeah.
very nice, very nice. And you've mentioned quite a few times spirituality. You touched on earlier about ancestral healing and how the two of them play an important role in your work. Can you talk to us a bit more about how you were able to connect with your lineage and even some family patterns that deepened your understanding of healing and how maybe other families can do the same?
Yeah, so I really believe we're coming into a time where people are going to be focusing on this more. I think we're kind of just tapping into it now. And so for some people, it's a little bit like, oh, I'm not really sure, but pay attention to how many multi-generational family homes people are living in and the sandwich generation and, the stories that we're hearing about ancestral and multi-generational work. And so I always had an interest in it, read some books on it and was like, oh, that's like fascinating. Did a little bit of family constellations work at one point in my journey. But what really came alive for me in this process, which was unexpected in ways, is when I started really tracking my own nervous system imprints. What are the ways that not only am I getting activated as a parent, but also what are the love stories that I've chosen, right? What are the relationships that I've chosen in life? And like, why did I keep picking that one over and over again? So as I became more and more curious about nervous system imprints, really, I used to call it energetic imprints actually, but then I got really into the body and it was like, oh, this is like deeply entrenched in the body. It's coded almost, not to use like a science or like a computer term, but so when I started really recognizing my own imprints, then became curious about my mom's and then of course her mom's. And I come from an Irish lineage. My grandmother was sent to America when she was 16 years old. She was born in 1902 or 1912. I might be getting grandpa and grandma mixed up. And I don't necessarily match the age of someone who has a grandmother that old.
Right.
So it was really interesting that like my lineage goes back so far, as close as it does, right?
Yeah. Wow.
So I feel like on a soul level, I feel like if I were to hold a reason for that, I was meant to reflect on this kind of work. I was meant to go and look at the ancestor line and how that does impact us because war, poverty, famine weren't that far away from my mother. So I got to see like how leaving your country at 15, 16 years old, never to see your family again, may have impacted you. And I became curious too about like, I mean, I've heard the story as to why she left, but like, why did her family put her on a boat? Like, so there was exile, and maybe not purposefully. I have to be really mindful of her story and the family's perspective of it. But there was exile just from the perspective of a child, even if she was happily leaving, right? Which then bled into what I've seen for a long time as exile and abandonment challenges in my own history, my mother's history. So kind of to say it as simply as I can, I became curious about nervous system imprinting and patterns, how they had continued down the line. And then certainly in my own spiritual work through things like family constellations, energetic shifting. I like using EFT. I know a lot of people are familiar with EFT, emotional freedom technique. I like using that from an energetic perspective. So there were ways that I was able to actually do deeper healing work with older patterning that I don't think I'll get all the way into here.
Right.
But it was the calling really came from starting to really wake up to what are the patterns that are in my line that are being asked to heal right now.
Okay. Wow. Thank you for that. And you mentioned something that I personally have not heard of. So I'm just curious. Maybe our listeners have not either. But can you explain family constellations? And because again, I'm not very aware of it, and how it helps uncover hidden patterns across generations.
Yeah. I'm going to make a joke and say, can I say no?
I mean, you could.
Kidding.
but-
Okay, so it's funny because I very much trust the process, and I trust that when we hold sacred space together and we're intentional, we trust whatever comes through. And so I find myself in these meetings, these podcast interviews where I'm like, oh man, I said that and now I signed myself up. So family constellations is not something that I am well versed in. I actually went and looked into it once and I was like, okay, should I go study this? And it's like, Nicole, give yourself a break. You have studied a lot. You are very busy. So I have not studied it yet, but I
Okay.
have been a recipient of. And I'll tell you, so there's a show on Netflix called Another Self. And if you're interested, go check it out because they actually, like, in part of the narrative, a big part of the narrative is these women that go through and men that go through family constellation experiences. And the best that I can describe it without knowing exactly what is happening is, so you meet with a practitioner. The practitioner is holding space for your ancestry, your lineage, and they do that in different ways. Some practitioners actually have physical people that act out these scenes from your past, supposedly, or they can use figures or stones. And since I don't know the sacred medicine, I want to be careful here, but maybe some of your listeners will and can weigh in maybe. But what I could use my own words to say, what I believe, and one day I'll know more, is that there's energetic, and we could also say nervous system imprints that come into the field, and the practitioner guides you through. I did this, I haven't done it with people, so I'll just express it with stones or figures. Guides you through activating the unconscious, much like you would for therapists that listen. I would say much like you would with a sand tray. So
Okay.
when someone's using a sand tray, right,
Mhm,
like
mhm,
scripts and stories will start to come through and come through
mhm.
the unconscious and come alive. So I would say it's much like that. Like imagine a sand tray, but with like real people, figure stones, and these people figure stones represent people from your history, from your lineage. And stories start to come through, often to the practitioner. It's often a deeply spiritual person that facilitates these. I mean, I think, I don't know, maybe we can all go learn it easily. I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
I guess. Yeah.
But whoever does facilitate, and I know my facilitators have been deeply attuned people. And so they walk you through and they give you some information about maybe what they see as far as how you're aligning the figures or the people are lining up, etc. And there's often stories there from the past.
Interesting. I'm
Yeah.
gonna have to check out Another Self because I have never heard of that before. So a lot of times guests come on and it's things I've never heard of. So thank you for giving me a reference to go and learn more because I
Yeah.
definitely would check that out. I appreciate it.
You're going to
So
be fascinated.
yes, I'm just in your bit of a story. I was like, wow, I need her to tell me more about
Mhm.
that. For any listeners or someone listening who feels stuck in the mess right now, what's one step that you would encourage them to take towards healing and resilience?
Yeah. So I'm a big believer of support. I really believe that getting yourself in front of someone that can hold sacred space for you and mirror to you and also reflect to you, even like that woman in your life, right? Like
Hmm.
you're not alone and you're going to be okay. And I know people are like, well, I have my friends for that, or I have the gym, or I have this or that. It's very different when
Hmm.
you bring your energy into someone else and somebody really holds that for you. So I mean, it sounds
Yeah.
so simple, but that in itself is everything. But people who are, maybe they already have a therapist or they have good support systems, but they're going through a really chaotic time. Certainly, I still think bringing in support is number one, but I would really focus on nervous system regulation, and not just from the perspective, I think, at which we are most taught to. I don't even know if I would say stay. Well, I think we are. I think we're taught to stay in our window of tolerance. This is where we want to live. And when we go outside, use tools so that we can get back into regulation. And I'm much more of a fan of expanding capacity of that window of tolerance, and also, to make it more practical, using nervous system regulation tools and strategies to work with the vagus nerve almost as if it's like its own muscle, and you take it to the gym and you work with it when you're not dysregulated. And the reason for that is, like, the stronger it gets, it doesn't really get stronger, but like the more fluid or flexible, let's say, it gets, the more you can move in and out of that window of tolerance. So you become more flexible. It's easier to go outside. Okay, I wanted to like scream at my kid, or dorsal vagal, where you're like, I'm just totally shutting down and I can't even get like the dishes into the dishwasher, right? I'm staring at it for 20 minutes and I'm like, why is this so impossible? Because you're in dorsal vagal state. So really learning and understanding the windows of tolerance and capacity of the nervous system, I think, is helpful. But then also really working with that vagus nerve as something that we are being intentional to increase capacity to move in and out of those states.
Wow. Thank you for that. Thank you. Yeah. So as we come to a close today, where can listeners connect with you, follow your work, and learn more about the art of chaos?
Okay, so the Art of Chaos is in its pre-publication mode. So we are still in the process of finding who we want to bring that into the world. So probably won't see it until next year. So come follow me on Instagram. I'm at Dr. Nicole Dolan. And also I have a website where you can come and learn more and follow along the Art of Chaos and its journey into the world, which is drnicoledolan.com. And those who are in California and Nevada and are looking for sliding scale services, my nonprofit, Sacred Path Holistic Therapy, like I said, we have a collective of therapists there that are offering sliding scale services to those who need them. sacredpathholistictherapy.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Nicole. I really have appreciated you speaking with us today. Thank you so much for coming.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me on.
And thank you to our listeners for taking the time to join us. Make sure to follow us on our social media at Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, and even on YouTube at Behavioral Health Today. And if you like our show, make sure to give us 5 stars and leave us a review. As always, the resources for this episode and the archive of all of our other episodes can be found on our webpage at triadhq.com/BHT. And we look forward to having you back with us next time on Behavioral Health Today.
We appreciate all the support from our community, and if you like our show, one of the best ways you can support it is by giving us a 5-star rating and leaving a review. Behavioral Health Today is a podcast part of the Triad Behavioral Health Network, all rights reserved.